Welcome back to Rush Racing League North America. This time we are having a racing fiesta around the streets of Mexico City at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. We had a bit of a gap week, and after Vegas, Vegas was pretty chaotic. So we'll see if we can have a fantastic race here tonight. It is going to be myself, Patrick Coleman, aka Rekus. Alongside me, as always, is the one, the only Game Hawk. How are you doing today, buddy?
I am doing fantastic, and I feel much better because I will be honest with everyone. I missed Rekus. It was really weird being alone for the last two races, being by myself. So I'm really happy to have you back and commentate with you again.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to it. Mexico is such a fun track. It's a difficult one, mind you, but it is fun. It's interesting because it looks like it would be a track that you would see in, like, you would look at the track and think it'd be more of like a higher speed track, like a Baku or a Monza or Vegas. But no, because of its higher elevation, the air pressure is a bit thinner because we're at such a high elevation. So the oxygen is thinner, and there's a lot of factors that actually makes it more of a high downforce circuit. So it's a bit of an interesting track, but I really love it. I mean, every single series that comes to Mexico always has a good time with it. It's a good esports track. It's a good real life track. Formula E races around here. Formula One races around here. IndyCar was supposed to race around there, but they just haven't been able to yet. So I think today's going to be fun. It was a fun race to watch in OCE as well. So once again, really looking forward to how this race is going to go.
Yeah, and everything that you said, it just makes it so much interesting because you see all the straight line, especially one of the longest straights on the calendar, and you might try and go for more speed, but in reality, you have to focus more on the downforce. But something else that is going to be interesting, that always makes Mexico interesting, is that it kind of almost works like Spain, where the tire degradation is very severe around Mexico, that especially in F125, your tires just basically fall off. And in qualifying, it won't matter as much because of using the medium and the soft compound. But when it comes to the race, I'm very interested to see how our drivers are going to handle that because of how quickly your tires can lose grip at a track like this, where it basically comes down to having downforce and having grip around some of these fast turns.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some really interesting sections of track. I mean, there's even at one point like a diamond you kind of have to go through, and I mean, the stadium section too is a really crucial part of qualifying, because if you mess up in that stadium section, it looks like it's a small mistake, but you could lose tenths of a second through there. And yeah, especially if you're a driver who, like myself, tends to struggle with tire wear, then this track will chew up your tires in an instant. You do have some pretty high-speed S's around the circuit as well, so I mean, you can make some overtakes happen. You can really make some extremely solid moves, but it is not an easy track by any stretch of the imagination. If you come to the circuit with a high-speed setup, you are probably not going to have a good time here.
Yeah, I couldn't say better myself. Like, especially that stadium section, like going through the stadium, it arguably is one of the most iconic parts about this racetrack, but it's also one of the most important because, like you said, if you get it right, you can gain so much time going through there. But if you get it wrong, not only do you lose time, but your tires also take a lot of the punishment. And especially considering how much dirty air affects you in this game. Now, they have, in recent updates, modified it a little bit so it's not as extreme, but it still is a noticeable factor, to say the least. So mixing that with the tight turns, it kind of makes a very interesting combination.
Oh yeah, 100%. You're 100% right there, GameHawk. It's a very tough track for both driver and machine. So it is a pretty strong track, honestly. And it also helps that we do have full qualifying here this time around instead of occasionally when we do get short quality. But the sky does look pretty cloudy here in today's race. I haven't heard anything about rain being on the docket, but rain could add another level of complexity. These North American races do like to have rain involved, don't they? I mean, Canada, Spain, Imola. I mean, I don't know about Vegas, but I mean, a lot of these tracks have had some rain here this season, and honestly, it's a bit of an interesting challenge, especially because we know that these tires, these intermediate tires, they're pretty fragile in a game that already makes some tires feel extremely fragile. I mean, I could throw a vase at a wall at Mach 2 and it have more durability than the intermediates at times.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And yeah, I don't know what it's been with the North American. Well, Vegas, we didn't have any sort of threat of rain, but I don't know. Just like you said, some of the other places, like especially like Canada, it was just the rain was a constant threat, and it means it seems like it keeps following us around no matter what track we go to in North America.
Yeah, it just does feel that way, doesn't it? But I mean, it's a challenge, right? Because I mean, with any sport or esport, one of the things that I've noticed people do tend to struggle with the most is adapting, and especially in the ever-changing world of Formula One and sim racing as a whole, you gotta always be ready to adapt. So adapting to different types of conditions, track types, strategies, it all comes together to make this really perfect symphony of just a good season. Because if I know Americans love their ovals, but sometimes if you just do the same thing kind of over and over again, it really just feels like it's the same thing every single time. But with the different types of tracks in Formula One, and also with North America being pretty generous in terms of the types of weather conditions it tends to throw at drivers, then honestly it spices things up. And I mean, things could be so different from the OCE race or even races inside of OCE in general. Like a Div 1 race could be torrential downpour, and then Div 2 is just bright sunshine. So once again, these drivers, they do need to adapt to ever-changing conditions. And that's the thing about qualifying too, is that with qualifying, you do have to adapt to just the track evolution. And I'm sure, like you've experienced before, this track evolves really quickly.
Yeah, it's a track that you really have to pay attention around almost every single corner, just because of how much time can be gained and lost. Because especially like with the 3 DRS sections that you have, it can be so crucial to obviously get as much speed as you want, but because of how tight the turns are, you can be flying out of the DRS with as much speed as possible, but then if you overshoot the corner, it throws all of that away and it doesn't do anything. So it just makes it really, really interesting because, like we said in the intro, it's a very fast track, but it also relies so much on downforce and being able to take those tight turns.
Another weird quirk about this track too. This track has a similar quirk to Australia in terms of F125. So if you look towards the kind of the first DRS zone, you can see that yellow dot as Sin goes ahead and jumps up to P1 with his banker lap. But if you see that yellow dot, that is your DRS detection zone. So basically that determines if you're within a second of the car ahead by the time you hit that line, you're gonna have DRS. Now the interesting thing about this track, as Detect Umberon goes ahead and jumps up to the top of the table, if you have DRS at the end of Sector 1, if you're within DRS range, you're automatically gonna get it for Sector 2, or the second DRS zone, because the second DRS zone doesn't have its own detection line. So, and that's the case with Australia too, because Australia it's got 4 DRS zones, but they're effectively 2 split DRS zones, because, and this is something I've experienced recently, you can get DRS out of the stadium section and go down the first DRS zone, but if you're still within DRS range by the time you hit that detection point and you still get ahead, even though you're ahead of the opponent come the second DRS zone, you're still got DRS because of that detection point. So, I mean, you could chain DRSs even though you're ahead of the car that you just passed on the first straight. So, Mexico is just one of those tracks that has an interesting quirk. I'm trying to think of other ones, but I know Australia has that same kind of quirk.
Yeah, definitely Australia. I'm also trying to think of other tracks that have that. In my opinion, I think that is probably going to be the most interesting thing to see when we start the race, because lap 1, we don't have any DRS. It's just straight line speed, whoever can get ahead. But come during the race, when you go into lap 2, I would be very interested to see if a situation like that happens and who's going to get that strange DRS detection and end up ahead and just get as much of a speed boost down the second DRS zone if they can. So it's a weird quirk, but it's one of the things that makes Mexico so enjoyable to watch and witness.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, qualifying could play a really huge factor, but this is also a track where you can get some really good overtaking as well. But you really want to get those overtakes pretty much done as there's a Haas just kind of reversing. That is Mechanic Mercedes, despite the fact he's not driving a Mercedes. Had a bit of a rough go of it coming out of the diamond in Sector 2. So he's got a ton of front wing damage there. He's missing a good chunk of that front wing and the end plate on that left side. So he's definitely going to have to come into the pits and get that fixed. But another interesting thing to note is that you mentioned the dirty air on this track. And especially right before the DRS zone heading into the stadium, that third DRS zone, it is tough because that is where you get dirty air the most, and you can just lose so much grip on the S's, and there's a lot of grass around those S's too, so you can really just, if you touch that grass, your car is likely not going to have much traction, and there's a good chance you might even be facing the wrong way after it's all said and done.
Yeah, kind of have a situation like Lance Stroll at Zandvoort. And I've had my fair share of seeing open lobbies where that's actually happened, where they'll go down toward that turn out of the DRS zone and they'll just clip the grass and just immediately spin out through the turn and into the wall.
Yeah, I mean, Mexico is a very tricky track, and Tai's already retired, so he's really confident with that near 1:14. He's got a 1:15.027. Currently about 7.5 tenths out of Marakidan in P2, but I mean, I think it's kind of early to really call that retirement, unless you're just feeling really confident. But then again, it is a full 3-stage qualifying, so we're gonna lose the bottom few drivers. I think in this case it's only, I always forget this because normally it's single shot quali or like one session quali, but I think we are going to lose the bottom 3 drivers in this case. So from P16 to P18 I think are gone after this, and then it'll be the next session we'll lose from P11 to P15, and then we have our top 10 shootout. But yeah, I mean, in this case, Tai does and Meraki too, they are in pretty decent spots to kind of try to call for this early retirement, because they would have to drop down to P16 or 17 to really lose their spot, and I really don't think that's going to happen here.
I also don't think that's going to happen here, and for them, it also is kind of a strategy call, because that means that for sure they'll have more access to different tires, because I believe that some of the other drivers, even like Umbreon is in 3rd, and he did his time originally on a pair of mediums. So if you are able to make that, if you are Tai and you are Marakidan and you did those times and you feel confident enough, you can retire and you'll definitely have sort of a slight tire advantage because you'll have an extra pair.
Yeah, and I mean, especially during the later stages of qualifying, you're definitely going to want to just try to keep as many set of softs as you can, because you could theoretically just run the first 2 sessions on mediums and then just burn all 3 or 4 set of soft tires that you might have there at the end. But you know, it's kind of interesting to see them kind of retire early. But I mean, these drivers have done their practice. Some of them, if they've competed in Oceania, they've already done this track because Oceania was, I believe, round 4, or Mexico was round 4 for Oceania. So a lot of these drivers have already done this track, so they kind of have an idea. They do have a setup that they can bring over from there and just kind of slap right on. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the session plays, and if weather is going to take effect, because weather can take an effect here and really just make the tire situation even more interesting. Because by default, you have about 3 set of intermediate tires and wet tires that you use for quali, and then you have another set of each that is specific to the race. But yeah, I mean, anything can happen here in qualifying. And another thing too about qualifying is something we've stressed time and time again. In qualifying, it takes 1 good lap to really go ahead and put yourself in a good spot. To get a good position in the race, you have to complete all of the laps. So consistency is going to be key here, regardless of where you start.
Yeah, definitely. The consistency for the race is going to be the big thing, and that was actually something that really kind of took root in Las Vegas, because a lot of the drivers were doing really, really fast individual laps, and then you got to the race, and you could really tell which drivers were a little bit more consistent and a little bit more smooth as they were going through the track. And obviously you can't account for anything like safety cars or collisions ahead of time, but still the most consistent drivers are usually the ones who end up in control when it comes to the race. But to get to the race, you do have to make the absolute fastest time to put yourself in the absolute best position to do that. So it's really a balancing act, and that's the thing that really makes it interesting, because you can be the fastest driver ever, but if you can't be consistent, then it really doesn't matter. But on the other hand, you can be a really consistent driver, but if you're not really the fastest in qualifying, then you won't really ever have a good place to start.
Yeah, honestly, that's really true. And Vegas in particular is a track that people do tend to kind of just find it boring in some drivers' perspectives, just because it is a track that there's not really a lot of change that happens at Vegas. It is primarily a speed track, but it is a track that really rewards consistency, just because there's not a lot of places to really make up time on that track, because there's not a lot of corners there. I think it's like 12 corners or something like that. It's not a lot. And even then, a good amount of those corners just lead to straight line speed. So pretty much, you just really need to be consistent on that track. Consistency is a requirement for every track that any of these drivers will race at, but for the most part, you really just gotta really just be consistent, because consistency is also what wins championships. It's not just a in the race thing. It can affect you across the entire championship if you're not careful.
Yeah.
We have a few more drivers retiring from the session. So right now, the drivers in the hot seats are Nasty Stu, Mechanic Mercedes, and H-Town Realtor. Those are the 3 drivers in the drop zone right now, with John T and Harold also kind of in danger zones as well. But some of those drivers are on a lap. We'll jump on board with the Visa Cash App Racing Bull of Nasty Stu, as he's going to try to go ahead and put in a delicious lap time here. He's going to go ahead and make his way through the diamond as he goes ahead and makes his way to the S's. He's not on a fast lap, so he's actually not truly flying. Neither is Mechanic Mercedes, so I think these guys are trying to set up for an actual flyer lap.
That was actually kind of a close call. You saw the McLaren go up, not expecting the Racing Bull of Nasty to get out of the way. I will say something else that was interesting, as Reigns will retire from the original qualifying session here. H-Town was originally on a very, very good pace coming down through Sector 2 and that last DRS zone, but he actually spun going out of the DRS zone, and that ruined his lap. So we literally talked about consistency, and then as we were talking about consistency, that happened as H-Town spun out going out through there. And to be interesting to be interested in that. Kind of surprising, just because that was something that we didn't really talk about when we were going through our intro, was that we talked about how much downforce and grip is going to matter. And in that case, some of these turns are very, very sharp turns. And we've seen in other tracks about just how much that can really mess up a driver if they spin their wheels too quick, or if they just try and get out of the corner too fast, or if they go into the corner too fast and try to brake. And Mexico is just full of those turns where, like we said, you have to focus almost every single turn to make sure that you get, in qualifying, the best lap, and in the race you get the absolute best position to try and win.
Yeah, especially in that stadium section, because if you spin the tires, you're just going to burn your tires up on a track that already has issues with high tire degradation. And also, if you come in too hot, like we kind of saw from Sin earlier, where he invalidated his lap, but you can really just kind of see where these drivers, if they come in too hot for some of these corners, they can just invalidate their lap time, which is obviously not a great place for them to kind of really, improve their quality position. But also, when you are in the race, if you do that too many times, you get hit with a 3-second penalty, and that could stack as well. So we're down to the final about minute and a half of qualifying there. So few drivers currently on flyers, drivers who have yet to set a representative lap pace, like the Houston native of H-Town. He's currently on a flyer right now, currently in P18, 12 seconds off the pole time. But that is, from what I know from H-Town, from the times I've talked to them, the times I've commentated with them, and the times I've watched them race, that is not a representative lap time. There's definitely more to take for actually quite a few of these drivers, so pretty much everybody in this bottom three has time on the board that they can go ahead and try to pull out here, because, I mean, there is a pretty decent spread here of times, but it's a three-stage qualifying, so this track is going to get quicker lap after lap. And actually, look at this, H-Town setting a personal best sector in Sector 2, so he is currently flying. He is 10 seconds off, which will take him out of the drop zone, because that'll put him, I think that'll put him in actually in the top 10 as of right now. So he's coming around the last corner here, exiting the stadium. Where's he going to go? He's going to go into 13th. Ooh. Not exactly super safe, but he's out of the drop zone for now.
Yeah, that is definitely a time after spinning out in Sector 3. That is definitely a time that he needed to set, and he did it right toward the end of the qualifying. Probably not what he was planning to do, but right now being in P13 is definitely better than being in P18, to say the least.
Indeed, yeah, and he's got a pretty good chance of jumping to the next section of quality, because even if it's the bottom 5, then he's still one position away from the drop zone, but he's still kind of in danger. A few drivers improving. The governor is improving. He is improved by a few tenths there. I think it's about 7 tenths coming out of the final straight. Where's he going to go? He's going to go up in the 10th. H-Town really is in trouble now. So does he have enough battery for another lap? There's still a few other drivers going ahead and going to try to improve. Harold is probably out. He is pretty much right in the danger zone, so he's potentially pretty much done and dusted. The V-Carbs are having a bit of a draft, though, coming to the final corner, and neither one of them escaped the drop zone. They both improved their times, but not their positions. So the only driver that could really knock out H-Town from this is Mechanic Mercedes. He's currently in Sector 2. He's going through the S's. We'll see what a Sector 2 time split is. He's improving by only a few tenths. So I think H-Town, it's not the lap he would have wanted, but I think it's the lap that's going to keep him safe, because he's really the only person that can knock him out, essentially. So H-Town is just on the fringes of it. H-Town's going to come into the pits. What about Mechanic Mercedes? Can he get himself out of this drop zone? I don't think so. He improves his time, but not his position. And yeah, that's stage 1 done. So double V-Carb elimination, and one of the Haas's is out. We'll see about the Red Bull and the Sauber, but at least for a fact, we've lost 2 Racing Bulls and a Haas here in Q1.
Yeah, if you are Harold in that Red Bull, you are probably breathing a massive sigh of relief, because of the Racing Bull of John. He had the draft from his teammate going through, and he barely missed out by 2/10 of a second. So you got to be breathing a sigh of relief there.
Indeed. So just by the skin of his teeth, it was about 1 point. It was about a tenth and a half there. But so we have indeed lost John DT, Nasty Stu, and Mercedes, or Mechanic Mercedes, are the 3 drivers we have lost. So going on, Harold, H-Town, NASCAR Freak is the Governor, Reigns, Barry, Nishka, Low Pro, Joshua, the Wildcat, Haydenson, Umbreon, Lyrion, Tai, and Marakidon move on to Q2. So now it's the bottom 5 of this session will get dropped. So you need to finish in the top 10 to move on to the final stage of qualifying here. But yeah, Harold, his heart is got to be in his throat right about now because that was so close.
Yeah, but now here's the beauty of it. Now we head into the next qualifying, and it's basically a clean slate now for some of those drivers who barely got in, because we were talking about how H-Town's time was a little skewed just because of not only spinning, and then he had to do his lap completely under pressure and basically just trying to skim by. But now it's a whole new session, and now all these drivers have another chance. And one other thing that I do want to point out is that with Meraki Don in particular, he set the second fastest time in that session, but he did it on the medium compound. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but that means that he did not use one of the soft compounds in that session. So that means that he has an extra pair of tires to play with that some of the other drivers don't have.
Which will definitely come into play here, especially in the later qualifying sessions, as we have quite a few cars getting ready to do the outlap. So we're going to go ahead and bring it back to the track as these drivers go ahead and get situated and get ready to rock here. So we'll just see how everything goes. It is a bit of a shorter qualifying session as the Red Bull becomes a lawnmower temporarily. The Red Bull of Joshua Bear being a bit of a lawnmower, but we'll just see how this session plays out.
So I will say, or I want to ask you, so far after the first qualifying session, are there any drivers that have particularly caught your eye as whether being kind of surprising that they were so high, surprisingly that they were low, or are there any drivers that have caught your eye so far?
Wildcat definitely had a better improvement than some races we've seen in the past. We've seen that Wildcat hasn't had the best of seasons here in the North America, but he was P6 at the end of that first session. So I think he has the potential to do really good here in today's race, but he's got to keep up that consistency. Meraki Don also setting the fastest time of the session, or the second fastest time of the session on mediums, is going to make him an absolute threat coming Q3.
Yeah, and still surprisingly, the clouds have not shifted, but there's still really been no threat of rain, shockingly enough. So I'm kind of curious to see if we actually are going to get rain for qualifying, or maybe that's going to be a thing for racing, maybe, eh?
Yeah, rain, I mean, sometimes if you have it to where it's set to like dynamic weather, then rain can be a bit mysterious sometimes. And Tai-Tai's out! Tai-Tai's into the wall in Sector 3 just before the stadium sector. He got tangled up a Wildcat, and his car is a crumpled piece of paper right now. That is a massive championship contender for the North American division out in Q2 without being able to set a time.
That is probably the most shocking thing that we've seen so far here in Mexico. I didn't quite catch what happened on the camera, but I definitely did see the result, and that is a massive blow. But that is also probably the absolute best news to hear if you are Meraki Dawn, your championship contender, currently between him and Tai Tai. If he's out in Q2, Meraki Dawn knows that he has got a path to being on that front row.
Yeah, I mean, I caught the tail end of that incident on my POV, and let me just tell you, that McLaren looked more busted up than my knee when I fell down the stairs this morning. That thing looked rough. I mean, and that's really unfortunate for Tai Tai. It's really fortunate for Meraki, though, because like you said, these two are locked in the battle for the NA Driver's Crown. And, I mean, Meraki Dawn, his biggest challenge is usually that of Tai Tai, but now, I mean, that's just, we're in round 6 of the championship here. And there is a bit of a points gap between the two. Tai Tai was on the title hunt. Currently 87 points for Tai Tai, 95 for Meraki Dawn. So only an 8-point buffer between these two drivers, but only a further 8 points back. And as a driver we haven't really talked about a whole bunch today is the Aston Martin of D-Tech Umbreon, because he's only 16 points behind Meraki Dawn. He's 8 points behind Tai Tai. So this is Umbreon's chance to jump up into P2 in the championship here.
Yeah, very, very true. And not only that, it also is going to matter for constructors as well, because when it comes down to the race, you're going to have one McLaren toward the back, and then depending on where Barry is, maybe toward more closer to the front. But unless Tai Tai can fight back, that will affect also the constructor standings, as McLaren has done very, very well, and Aston Martin has been also the kind of competitor for the constructor standings. So yeah, just Tai Tai going out of Q2 is really the the biggest headline that we have had so far.
That is astounding. I mean, that was not my bingo card, honestly, but sometimes it just tends to happen. It's unfortunate, and I don't hear it, but I can almost hear Tai Tai having a very reasonable crash out, considering what happened here, as he actually got crashed out of the qualifying. And I mean, we're in the stage of the championship now where, I mean, there's not a lot of, you're running out of rounds. I mean, granted, we're only about, this is officially the halfway point of the NA/EU league here at Rush Racing, but there's only 6 more rounds left to go, and we're pretty much at the point where every point is going to matter, and that's going to be a massive buff to Meraki Dawn if he can go ahead and continue this process, especially with his main rival being out in Q2. So, but I wonder, because there's going to be some scrutiny behind that, obviously. There always will be scrutiny, but something to really note is that the driver that took out the McLaren is a Ferrari. It's not the same Ferrari, but it is a Ferrari. So, I mean, I can 100%, or I would like to say that was not intentional, and it probably wasn't. It was probably a mistake. But considering that there's only 3 points behind or between Ferrari and McLaren in the North America Constructors Championship, I mean, there's going to be some accusations thrown around.
Yeah, of course. And kind of like real life, that accusations can be thrown around for things like that. And while we're talking, you originally were talking about how you were paying close attention to Wildcat. Well, I think that you actually chose correctly, because Wildcat originally set a P4 time, and only 2 other drivers have set a time faster than him after that. So he's currently sitting in P6 on top of the leaderboard. So I think you actually picked a good driver to watch out for, as a lot of the other drivers, you can see that there's only 3 drivers who set times on a medium, and all of those drivers are in the top 10 right now. So maybe it looks like the medium compounds are actually faster than maybe what some of these other drivers are giving it credit for.
Yeah, indeed. it's kind of an interesting situation to just kind of see yourself being a part of, but also to bring it back to Wildcat. He was also the driver that was there that kind of led to the demise of Tai in this qualifying session. So for good and bad reasons, it was good to kind of bring our attention towards Wildcat. It's unfortunate because Wildcat does got pace. I mean, it's clear there that he does have the pace, but even if he gets pole position, he's going to drop a few spots because of that grid penalty out the serve in game. As Meraki Dawn just extends his lead, a 1:15, 1:33. That's not quite as fast as the time Tai set though in Q1. He was about a few tenths, or about a tenth faster, maybe a little bit under a tenth faster, but still, I think in terms of raw pace, Meraki Dawn isn't exactly on the same level as Tai. Close, but not quite. But here's the thing too, is we know Barry can be very strong. I mean, all we have to think about is just look back to that dominant win in Miami that he had.
Yeah, just I really feel like just with Tai going out, it kind of just really threw everything all sideways. I mean, we have a couple hurricanes that are going off the coast of where I live, and it feels like one of those hurricanes literally just went through here and just threw everything together and just kind of messed everything up of what we were expecting to see here in the qualifying.
I mean, considering that we're in a part of the U.S. that does get hurricanes semi-frequently, I wouldn't doubt that, to be honest. But hey, speaking of weather, I was actually looking at the pits for a moment, and the sun is starting to peek through the clouds here, so there's a good chance that rain will not be on the way, but it will be. The track is going to go ahead and get a little bit hotter now that the sun's out, so a bit extra degradation, but a bit more grip being put on the surface here, and it'll be a bit easier to warm those tires up. So we'll probably not see full sun in this quality session. It'll probably Q3 when we see that full sun come out, but the sun is starting to peak up here in Mexico City.
And there's our first retirement that was, at least this time, by choice. Meraki Dawn retires from Q2, currently with the fastest time. So just like Q1, and Barry will follow suit. So just like Q1, they feel confident enough here in Q2 that they can go ahead and retire from qualifying and see if anyone else can fight. Right now, I'm spectating Umbreon and trying to see if Umbreon is going to set a better time here as he comes to the start-finish line, because his first lap was really not that great. And that time, his time will send him up into P8, and that will get him into the top 10. But that was good for him. That was a very, very good lap, because that first lap originally that he had was the slowest lap, so he kind of needed that.
Indeed, and also, I do want to make a correction. Barry FC did not win in Miami. That's a driver with a similar-ish name of NYC Gaming, who hasn't been around since. But I mean, he was P5 in Vegas, so I think Barry. I think he'll do enough to minimize the damage and the constructors involving Ferrari. But right now, there's 4 of the drivers in the drop zone. So Nishka's in the drop zone. He's on an outlap at the moment. H-Town also in the drop zone and on the outlap. Harold and the Governor are in the pits, which gotta wait for the time to come back, because there is a slow-moving Mercedes in Sector 1 bringing out a caution, which shouldn't affect too much, but or at least we hope it doesn't affect too much. But not a lot of time left here in Q2. We're about to lose the bottom 5 drivers, and then we go to our top 10 shootout. Yeah, about 2 minutes. These drivers need to go ahead and get going. Harold is still in the pits. Rain has retired. A bit of an iffy spot, but I think he'll still be able to survive. Harold needs to come out of the pits, but he is not out just yet. The Governor is on our lap, so a few drivers on a lap. Who do you want to go on board with here, Wildcat, as we do the last minute and a half of Q2?
You go ahead. Yeah, Wildcat currently is on the outlap. I've been bouncing around, especially between Nishka in the Alpine and H-Town in the Kick Sauber, as they are also setting their current times right now. Because with a minute, maybe they'll be able to get one more lap in if they can drain as much power as they can. Joshua in the Red Bull is gonna go ahead and leap up into P2, overtaking Barry, and that is kind of shocking to see him leap up that quickly. And Umbreon will also retire as we near just about 30 seconds here left in the qualifying session.
That's kind of an iffy spot for Umbreon to kind of retire in because he's only a P8. So, because here's the thing, even though Wildcat does have that 5-place grid drop, it's not going to be served until after qualifying is done and dusted. Nishka is not improving though. He is 7/10 behind on his first sector, so Nishka might be out here in Q2. H-Town jumps up to P9, but that is still not exactly safe for the Houston native, but he did improve by about a second, just about 8/10 here. We'll see about some other drivers. Harold is out, so we know Harold will be knocked out in Q2. He is not currently on lap. He's still in the pits, so he's out of here. What about... There's a few drivers that still could shake up the order a bit. Qualifying is done for Q2. So, I know we have lost Tai and Harold. Who else are we going to lose? There's still 3 spots left in this drop zone. We'll just have to see. NASCAR Freak is not going to get out of the drop zone. Nishka's not either. Can the governor get out? He's going through the stadium now. Going through Del Sol. We'll see if he can fire up the Haas and get it into Q3. He is going to have to push it. He's got to get perfect around here. He's got to beat a 164. He'll get a 117, and he is out in Q3. Wildcat hangs on by about half a second, but I think that is qualifying pretty much done and dusted.
Yeah,
for Q2 at least. We still have one more session.
That was a very crucial. I was kind of shocked by seeing the Alpines. I thought Nishka originally looked like they were on a very quick lap, but just wasn't really able to pull it out at the end. And that, once again, H-Town will get into Q3 just by pure determination and setting just the fastest lap when he absolutely needed to.
He's definitely going to be glad that at least something from Houston is performing, unlike the Houston Texans.
Oh.
But, I mean, in most NFL seasons, I cannot talk trash like that because normally the Jaguars don't do good, but they're 3-1 right now. So, you know what? We'll take what we can. And we actually did beat the Texans. But all jokes about the NFL aside, H-Town has really pulled it out of the bag here because, I mean, he was barely safe in Q1, so I honestly was thinking he had a pretty reasonable shot of getting knocked out here. But even if Tai finished this session right now and say he qualified around where Meraki Don was, H-Town would still be safe. He'd be in P10 even if Tai didn't retire. So, I mean, that's still a pretty good improvement there from H-Town. He is a little over a second away, but he's still pulled out a lap when he needed to, and he is up into Q3, so he'll be here for our top 10 shootout.
And just for you, Ruckus, it seems that your comment about the Texans is getting good reception in the chat. So it seems that you are not the only one that feels that way, as you can see that currently our eliminated drivers are from P15 to P11, and P15 Tai, who did not complete a lap, and then P14 Harold, P13 Nishka, P12 the Governor, and P11 NASCAR. So this is really setting up to be a very interesting and competitive qualifying session 3.
Yeah, I actually got approval from H-Town himself in the Twitch chat, so you know what, I'll take it. And actually, I would have felt really stupid if I went there and checked their scoreline and they actually did do good, but no, they're 1-3. So, not exactly the greatest, but I mean, hey, you know what? I mean, if there's one hope left for the town of Houston, it is H-Town in the Rush North America division. So, but yeah, I mean, honestly, I wasn't entirely too sure. We're seeing some surprises though. I mean, obviously the big surprise was Tai being eliminated in Q2 through not really any fault of his own. He just unfortunately got caught out and got taken out. So, but I think Marakidan is probably the most likely driver to get pole here. I mean, he was P2 in the first session on a set of mediums, and he had a really strong lap time in Q2. So I think in terms of qualifying, I think it is going to be Marakidan putting that Ferrari on pole, but a driver that has really kind of flown under the radar today, who's been putting in some pretty good performances in the Sauber, is got to be Illyrian. Illyrian was actually pretty high up there towards the end of the session. I think he got like P3.
Yeah, Illyrian was also kind of the surprise, but I think for me also, I think Joshua in the Red Bull was really surprising because originally he was hanging around P8, just kind of in the middle of the field, and then right at the end he jumped into P2, and he was only about 0.2 of a second off of Marakidan, so maybe Marakidan has a little bit more competition, even if Tai is not here in Q3.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Joshua Baer I think it's going to be a really interesting one because this grid is going to be shaken up with the absence of Tai, obviously. But I mean, we could see some other surprises. We could see some other drivers. Like we could see because Barry FC was actually not far off in terms of pace himself, the other McLaren driver here today. But I mean, we could see some pretty big surprises. I mean, D-Tech Umbreon, currently P3 in the Drivers' Championship. He's got a good chance to really shake things up a bit here. He's only 16 points behind, so if he wins in Marakidan DNFs here, which isn't likely, but it is a possibility, then he could jump up into P1 in the championship. And then we really got to fight here with 6 races to go.
Yeah, just makes it all great for Rush Racing League, am I right? With all the competition here, that it really showcases how unpredictable Formula One can be. 1 second, it's talking about the championship leader, and then the next second, he can crash out, and all of a sudden, there's 4 other drivers that are ready to take over. So it just really showcases not only how unpredictable F1 can be, but also how unpredictable just Rush Racing League can be, no matter if it's OCE or North America.
Yeah, honestly. And another thing too about Rush is that the F2 series is coming back. So if you like the Formula 2 cars and F125, then, and you're wondering, how would competition be in these F2 cars? Well, you don't have to wait much longer. There has been an expression of interest for the Formula 2 division. When that will be starting up, I'm not too sure yet, to be honest. We will announce that when it is official, but the F2 division is coming back to Rush Racing, and the F2 division does hold a special place in my heart because the first race I commentated for Rush was an F2 race. It was in their Formula 2 division, so that's a bit of a nostalgic throwback, although I know some people have had mixed opinions on the F2 car in this game. What are your thoughts on the car if you've driven the F2 car?
I have driven the F2 car. I don't really know if I can say much about it, for the simple fact that I just haven't driven it enough that immediately joining into F1, I just started driving the F1 cars. So I do think that F2 is a very, very interesting car to drive, but I will admittedly say that I want to drive it a little bit more before I can really say that I like it or if I hate it. But yeah, and I kind of agree with you that it kind of, F2 always kind of has like a special place in games like this, that like even going back to the first time that I ever played F1 in F1 2019, that is just, F2 was there and that was the original introduction. So I kind of agree with you that there's just a special place for it.
Yeah, and I will say though, there's been a few critiques I've heard about the F2 cars as these drivers go in and set their banker laps right now. And one of them is that you have to brake extremely early in the Formula 2 cars, which is correct. You do have to brake about... You have to brake about twice as early as you would in these Formula 1 cars, just because of that. So, and it does take a while to get used to, as we see Joshua Bear doing some rally stuff, turning his Red Bull into a bit of a lawnmower, just to kind of... And we have to kind of explore that's truly legal or not, because I think he did it to get ahead of Umbreon or Reigns. That's definitely Umbreon. Trying to get an Umbreon who is actually on a flyer, so I don't think that counts as impeding, but that might be that. I don't know how that falls into the rulebook, honestly, because you're cutting the track, and there's a bit of a spin there for Umbreon, knocking out the Bollard in the stadium section. But yeah, no, I mean, I know his lap kind of fell apart right there, but I mean, a driver cutting the track like that and purposely invalidating the lap to get ahead of another car just while on an out lap themselves, that's kind of a... I don't know, that just doesn't sit right with me. But once again, that'll be for the rule makers and the stewards, of which I am neither. As my co-host has forgot to unmute himself, which and does happen.
The meme strikes again, and I'm saying that I was saying that that incident of just cutting the track really makes me again think of George Russell in Monaco, where he kind of just cut the track and he said, "I'll worry about the penalty afterward. That I just want to get ahead and do what I want to do." So
yeah, and I mean I'm pretty sure we've seen this in OCE recently as well. I think it was particularly one of the reserve program races. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting one because it's definitely unprecedented. It's something I haven't really seen before. Maybe other drivers have, but cutting the track to kind of make your outlap quicker is I don't know about that, to be honest. It might be something that the rule makers might have to look into, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, and so far, just about approaching 4 minutes left here in Q3. What are your thoughts about this so far? Joshua currently has the fastest lap, with Miraculon in second and Umbreon in third, and then Sin in fourth. And you can see, like, looking at the times, they are all right stacked against each other. Like, not really much of a separation. The biggest separation is between Lopro in fifth and Wildcat in sixth, which would be just about exactly 1 second. But even then, that's not the biggest gap we've seen. So what are your thoughts so far?
It's an interesting grid, but I think it's gonna shift. I still think Miraculon is gonna get pole because right now, still the fastest lap time of this entire qualifying session does belong to TyTy from Q1. Oh, that baller definitely got just punted by Illyrian there. But even by Miraculon's time, the lap that he has on the board right now is not his fastest lap. He had a 1:15.1 previously, and he's on a 1:15.2 now. Only 0.84 of a second behind the current provisional pole man of Joshua Bear. But I think Joshua Bear, he's in a good spot. I don't really see him dropping lower than fourth, but I don't think he's going to keep that pole time. He's in a good spot though, but he's going to have to hope that Miraculon just doesn't find the time that's on the board, and we just got to see if Joshua Bear can potentially even improve further, because that would be a really good pole for Red Bull.
Yeah, that would be a very, very good starting point for the race for Red Bull. And I don't know, just like you said, there's just a lot of unknowns right now. It's just with 2 minutes left, 2.5 minutes left, it's going to come down to the wire just to see which drivers are just going to be able to get just that tiny bit of separation to get the fastest lap. So now you can see that both Joshua and Umbreon are now out on their outlaps, So now only 3 drivers are currently in the pits, as every other driver is either setting their times or are on an out lap, as everyone's going to rush to the end. And this is going to be a very interesting ending to see who's going to get pole.
Indeed, yeah, because, I mean, right now, Meraki is not going to set a lap time now because he is pretty much warming up the tires, getting ready to go ahead and set a flyer. He's saving that battery up. He's got full battery now. So he's pretty much just waiting to give it a go here. And he's going to go ahead and turn on the afterburners, and he is going to be going now, making his way down the main straight, activating that overtake, reaching a top speed of about 213 miles an hour, almost 215 miles an hour. Slows down for the first corner. Bit of a brake lock up there going to it. That might have cost him a little bit of time. But now he's going to continue on, making his way through the second DRS zone with under a minute left to go. He needs to give it a all. He's only improving by 0.45 of a second in Sector 1. It is a purple Sector 1, mind you, but he's only up by a half a tenth. That is not enough to usurp Joshua Bear from that provisional pole position. He's going to make his way through the S's now, which he's lucky he doesn't have another car ahead of him, because that would be dirty air and nightmare. But we'll see if he's going to go ahead. Sector 2, there we go. That's something he needs. He's up by almost 0.3. That would put him into provisional pole. He's logging up the brakes going into the stadium. And now he's only got one more sweeping right under left. He touches the wall a little bit on corner exit. He's going to burn the battery. Where's his time going to be? It's a 1:14.978. That's the fastest time on the session. Can Joshua Bear answer back?
And as qualifying ended, that was an absolute flyer of a lap from Meraki Dawn. Umbreon able to cross the line as well, will improve a time a little bit, but will still remain in third. So now it comes down to, can Joshua Bear respond as he's going through the same turn a little bit cleaner? Does he have it? He does not. He improves a tad bit, but it is not enough. So Meraki Dawn will retain provisional pole for now with 3 drivers still on the track.
Indeed, so that was a very good lap there from Meraki Dawn. This is the one he needed. Leary's going to jump into pole position by about 1.8 of a second. Where did that come from? Barry FC jumps up into 6th. The last driver left to set a time is going to be Wildcat. Where's he going to go? He's going into 10th. He'll start from 15th because of the penalty. But where did that come from Lyrian? That was a beautiful lap time from the Sauber.
An absolutely beautiful lap time. I was about to say we might need to call the stewards, because I think we just witnessed the robbery of the century, as Illyrian absolutely came out of nowhere and just stole the pole position right from underneath Meraki Dawn's feet. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that happen this season.
That was certainly a left field pole position, and you know what? Fair play to Lyrian. That was a beautiful lap time there from the Sauber. Fully deserved. And that was a very, very strong pole position for the driver, for the European driver. And we'll see just how everything plays out here. So rounding out our top 10, it is going to be Illyrian in P1, Meraki Dawn in P2, Joshua Bear P3, D-Tech Umbreon P4, A Hated Sin P5, Barry FC P6, Reigns in 7th, H-Town in P8, Low Pro in 9th, and Wildcat qualifies 10th, but he will have a 5-place grid drop for his collision earlier with Tai Tai, so he'll start from 15th. But man, what a session that was. And actually, just gonna look through it a bit. Lyrian's best result of the season, I'm actually going to look for Lyrian's best result of the season because he hasn't won yet in NA. His best result was, I think, a P9. Gonna double check that just to be sure. But yeah, his best result of the season is actually a P9. So, Lyrian just coming out of nowhere to yoink that pole position away. Can he convert it to a race win? Because A driver with a best finish of P9 jumping into a best finish of P1? That's going to be monumental for Sauber in this championship. As we're just waiting for the drivers to go ahead and get their setups ready to rock. So we can go ahead and get going here. They're picking out the strategies, picking out what tires they want to go ahead and use to go ahead and kickstart this Mexican Grand Prix here at the Autodromo Hermano Rodriguez here in Mexico City, right in the heart of Central America. And we're going to go ahead and get going here very, very, very shortly as we're just waiting for the drivers to go ahead and get things all settled, all ready to go. Drivers trying to plan their fuel loads, make some front wing adjustments if they can. And here we go. We're about to get qualifying here for round 6 of the North American Division of Rush Racing League. And it is lights out and away we go. Making our way to down into turn 1. It is a Fiesta, but look at this. A VSC because mechanic Mercedes couldn't get off the line. That's going to neutralize the race. Tai has a penalty for Nishka.
What is going on? This is, I mean, we've had some chaotic starts before, but I don't think I've ever witnessed anything this chaotic.
You say that's a chaotic start, but I think that's a chaotic lack of a start because, I mean, the drivers barely got off the line. Mercedes didn't get off the, or mechanic Mercedes didn't get off the line at all, which caused the VSC and our first disqualification. And I mean, this is going to be good for these drivers because let's just take a look at the tires they're on right now. So a majority of the field is running on the hard tire compound. Illyrian's on the mediums. So I'm curious to see what the strategy is going to be because according to Amazon, there's 2 potential race strategies. Medium to hard or a hard to double medium. What do you think what's your prediction on what's the ideal tire strategy as we're back on the way here on lap 1 out of 36 for the Mexican Grand Prix? What are your predictions here for strategy, GameHawk?
I do think, well, it is going to be very interesting because Mexico is one of those tracks, like we said in the introduction, that how fast the tires are going to wear is going to be the biggest factor of this race. So I think the planning behind the different tire types is that Illyrian and those who are running the mediums want to get off to as best of a start as they can. Those on the hards are probably going to be able to go a little bit further. So I think the idea of the strategy is going to be how good the tires look, because if the mediums can go maybe a little bit longer than predicted, then maybe some of those on the mediums will have a little bit more of an advantage. But at the same time, the hards, if they last just longer and can provide just enough grip as they go through the track, then I don't know. It's just kind of a question mark just because it all comes down to how fast the tires are going to wear out.
Yeah, I think tire management is going to be a big factor in today's race. I mean, we'll see. Oh, and Joshua goes a bit deep. Going a bit deep into the stadium section. And there's a yellow flag. It is Nasty Stu spun around at the S's. And he'll get back going in the right direction. But a little bit of chaos to start off this Mexican Grand Prix. I said it was going to be a fiesta of a race when we started this broadcast. But I think some drivers partied a bit too hard. As we see Marakadon, he's got the DRS, a bit of a brake lockup, but he's got the position. He is in the lead, championship leader, back in the lead of the race.
And there's the factor that we just that we talked about. Meraki Dawn got the DRS and he stayed behind just long enough. Now he got DRS into that second zone to secure his place. We talked about it. I made the prediction about saying it was going to happen on lap 2. Happened 1 lap later, but it turns out that that is the move that really kind of secured the lead for Meraki Dawn for the moment being.
And honestly, it would have happened lap 2 if we didn't have the VSC at the start. So, but look at just the raw pace of these top 3, because I mean, you have Meraki, Illyrian, and Joshua all 3 seconds all 3 seconds away from GM Reigns in P4. So, I mean, this is a very, very good weekend here for Maraudon. It's the one he needed. But his championship rivals aren't really having the best of times here. You have Detect Umbreon, who is pretty much in P4. I mean, it's not a bad position to be in, but not exactly a great one either. Tai just got up into 10th, but he has a 10-second pen to serve, so that'll be served in the pits. So he's going to have about a 30-some second pit stop, which is going to really put him behind, and he's going to be struggling to try to get back into the points. And even the points he does gain here are going to pale into comparison to what he would have wanted to try to catch up to Maraudon in the championship.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how these drivers in the midfield are going to fight, because you know Tai is going to push as hard as he can, because if he hadn't have crashed out of Q2, there's probably a really good chance he would have made that and be fighting for the pole. So he probably wants to fight as much as possible to get to the front. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to be able to deal with the penalty and just see how far he can climb back into it, because we still got a lot of laps left and anything can really happen, as these races have really shown.
Indeed, I mean, and there's also safety cars that could happen. There's VSCs, random weather changes, which I'm not predicting is going to happen. Bit of drama here towards the back. I think that was NASCAR having a bit of an issue there, but it's been resolved and we are back racing. Back on the green flag conditions, and now Illyrian. Here's the thing, Illyrian just hasn't been able to kind of capitalize on the DRS, and when you're in the dirty air, it also affects your tire wear percentage, because dirty air will wear out your tires more than clean air will. So, I mean, for Illyrian's race, he really needed to stay in front of Maraudon, considering how torturous this dirty air can be around here, especially through the S's of Sector 2. I mean, the S's already cooked the tires enough in clear air, let alone the dirty air from the Ferrari just up the road.
Yeah, and I think that that'll definitely maybe play a factor in the strategy, because usually, especially in F125, the strategies are never really a set pattern that we can see. Some wild things happen when it comes to pitting, especially that in the one race is Nasty Sue will get a 3-second time penalty. But we saw that Maraudon pit 5 times in one race and still ended up in 3rd. So sometimes the strategy is not always set in stone, but I am interested to see if the strategy will shift because of that dirty air that Illyrian is dealing with, and that will definitely wear out the mediums a lot quicker than it will wear out the hards.
Indeed, and also Joshua Bayer is making him have to fight to defend that position, and the more you defend, even without tire wear being involved, the more you defend, the more time you lose to that car just up ahead. But you have to also deal with the fact that it is actually taking life out of the tires, because you have to spend more tire grip trying to position your car in a defensive way to where you can defend from the hard charging Bayer, and Bayer's got more room to really try to make these moves because he's on the more durable compound, so he can be a bit more reckless on this tire than Illyrian would, as we get I just now realize how many penalties we already have here. There are 6 drivers with penalties here, with, I believe it was a Hated Sin just getting the most recent penalty. Tai-Tai's got 10 seconds, NASCAR's got 6, John's got 3, and Nasty Stu has 3. Ooh, that's a bad spot to be parked there for John. But he gets back going again, having a bit of a moment in the S's, but in the end, there's
Also,
still a good amount of racing to go. Dip on the brakes for Joshua. Is he going to get it? He does. What a move there from the Red Bull.
Oh, that was really, really close. But also, look at this. Maraudon now has 6 seconds of time penalties. And those are penalties that you can't serve and get rid of in a pit stop. So now, with them being with Joshua and Illyrian being close, now Maraudon has those 6 seconds of penalties to worry about now.
And here's the thing too, right? Meraki Dawn is championship leader. And if he loses about another second of time, then Umbreon will be ahead of him in this race. So Umbreon will gain points onto Meraki Dawn here. So, and Tai will too. Oh, well, Tai's got 10 seconds, but he can serve that one in the pits. And I mean, Umbreon got 3 seconds of pens, and that is a commentator's curse if I've ever heard one. So ignore that statistic. But Joshua Bear could get a win here for Red Bull, and it'd be Red Bull's first win of the season here in NA. The sister team has won. You've had Racing Bulls get victories here in North America, but no regular Red Bull.
What a pass there from Illyrian. He did get past the Red Bull. Oh, the Red Bull's fighting back. They're side by side. Illyrian will have the DRS as now here we go again. Is he going to be able to make the move? He's going to choose not to. And what a great job by Joshua. Even though he got overtaken going into turn 1, he was still able to fight back despite Illyrian still having DRS. That was a great job by Joshua.
Yeah, Illyrian was hoping to catch Joshua having a siesta here, but nope, you are not catching this Red Bull napping. Red Bull is giving him wings, and they are flying right now. That Red Bull's, this is the most dialed in we've seen Joshua here this season here in North America. I mean, he's on for a race win. He's got to stay within 6 seconds of Meraki Dawn, but he's really got a good chance to win it here. However, as we can see from pretty much about half the field already having a penalty of some sort, this is a very easy track to go ahead and get track limits on, because the stadium section is really easy to get track limits on, and also the turn 1 is pretty good to get track limit violations on, and so is the little diamond right in the end of sector 1 going into sector 2. So yeah, this is a really tricky spot. And also, did you know that I want to say it's either the diamond section or the actual stadium section of the track, but one part of this track also used to double as a baseball field.
That is actually a fact that I didn't know that you were bringing to my attention. That is actually a very fun fact.
Actually, so after doing some quick research, it is actually through the stadium section, and it is actually known as Foro Sol, or Foro Sol, so F-O-R-O Sol. So the Foro Sol ballpark is actually the stadium section that we're currently watching Illyrian and Joshua Bear battle through right now, as they're turning that stadium into a gladiatorial coliseum with how much they're battling it out.
And something else to take note of, Tai is currently in 5th place and now make it 4th place as Umbreon had a little bit of a moment. So now Tai 4.5 seconds behind Joshua, as Joshua is going to go ahead and pass Illyrian and make the move stick. So now, if you are now in that top 3, all of a sudden you have probably a very frustrated Tai in the Papaya McLaren charging up behind you, as now you want to fight as much as possible, but all of a sudden now a new contender has entered the chat.
And they got to be careful not to battle too much, because I mean, I don't think Tai I mean, there's always a chance, right? Nothing is impossible when it comes to racing, but Tai-Tai's gonna have a really tough time of trying to win this race. But the big difference between Tai and his championship rival Meraki Dawn is that he can serve his penalty in the pits. He can't serve that one though. That's a 3-second time penalty here for Tai. Joshua Bear going deep into the stadium section. He's got to be pretty high on warnings right about now. So, I mean, we were talking about how you have to pretty much be within 6 seconds to get a race win over Meraki Dawn right now. But Joshua's about to put himself on a 3-second penalty as Illyrian is falling down the order, but he's actually making an early pit stop on those mediums.
Yeah, so now I'm curious to see what tire compound he's going to put on. It looks like he's going to put on the hard compound. So an interesting choice there, as 10 laps was the mediums range. So now I'm interested to see maybe now if anyone else will choose to respond and see what the strategy is for those who started out on the hard compound.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. I mean, I think the mediums could maybe go a bit longer. I can maybe see them going to 13. Oh, what is this? Barry having a bit of a moment there through the diamond, and now they're going to go ahead and continue on. But I think in general, I think starting on the hards might have been a bit of a better call, as we have that's actually one of the B carbs turned around. That is actually Stu having a nasty spin on the final corner of the circuit, as now he's about to go ahead and get passed by the Ferrari of Meraki Dawn, which I know in some cases a lapped car can actually give you DRS. I don't think this is one of the cases, but I think if Meraki was closer, he could actually get DRS and pull out of that 6-second buffer that he needs to have between himself and Joshua Bear.
Yeah, that would definitely be something that can happen and really help, as NASCAR will get a 3-second time penalty, totaling up to 9 seconds currently for him. But yeah, as you can see, Meraki Dawn's right on that like 6-second cusp, and you can see right there he'll cross it just barely. But I'm still more interested. You can see that Tai is now just about 1.2 behind Joshua, as he is just absolutely putting lap after lap after lap of just chasing down the leaders, starting originally from all the way back in the grid and now in the top 3. And I think he has his sights set on not just the podium, but the win. He might be trying to push and see, like, maybe I can perform some magic and just somehow get this win.
If that is the case, we have a retirement in the pits. That's not going to affect anything on track. But I was going to say, if Tai can pull off a win here, then I think he's definitely going to get driver of the day from us. No doubt about it. Although I'm not sure if this change actually hit North America or not, but there was a change in OCE a while ago where the driver of the day no longer grants a bonus point, but it's now the cleanest driver of the race now gets the bonus point. But still, I mean, Tai could very well get driver of the day here. He's about to try to go ahead and fire past the Red Bull here, but the Red Bull is going to go ahead and put on a very strong defense here as they go ahead and make their way through the diamond. And now they're going to go ahead and get ready to... Oh, and the Racing Bull spins out in front of them. It was already ghosted, so it's not going to make any difference to these two battling it out for P2 at the moment. But that would have definitely made Joshua Bear probably have a bit of a Code Brown moment, I would say.
Yeah, that is definitely a very scary moment. Doesn't matter if the car is ghosted or not. Having any car spin in front of you is, Illyrian will get a 3-second time penalty as well. It looks like everyone is having issues with the track limits, but yeah, ghosted car or not, that is a moment where you have a little bit of an internal panic.
Indeed, as we see the battle here between Tai and Joshua. Tai is up in the second place. He gets to move down on the straight. We saw Joshua Bear there trying to break the slipstream, but just wasn't enough. Dread it, run from it. Tai is trying to tie up some loose ends here and trying to make sure that he does as much damage limitation as humanly possible here, because he will serve that penalty in the pits, mind you, but he still has a 3-second penalty that he cannot serve in the pits. So he's just going to hope he's ahead of Meraki Dawn by about 3 seconds or more.
Yeah, and I think that this is where strategy is really going to kind of take more of an effect, because of when these drivers are going to choose to swap out their tires, because obviously the hard tires are not going to be able to go all the way to the end. So it's now going to become a question of, when does Meraki Dawn pit? Because you can see that Tai is still gaining time on Meraki Dawn. So now it's kind of a question of, when are these leaders going to choose to pit for either a fresh set of mediums or maybe another set of hards? But it's just kind of the big question mark, as we would say.
I think it's too late in the race to see the drivers pit for another set of hards, because that'd be a two-stop. And there's not really a lot of benefit to really doing a two-stop at this stage of the race. So I think it's going to be probably... I would say it's probably going to be closer to lap 20 maybe. They're actually probably realistically going to try to get to maybe lap 26 on this set of hard tires. Just because we did see earlier that the mediums have a lifespan of about 10 laps. About 10 to 13 laps, kind of give or take, but yeah, I think they're going to at least try to get to the mid-20s before going in and swapping to the medium tires. So I don't think any of our front runners are going to pit for some time unless they have damage. That's the only thing I can think of. It'll be lap 20 at least before we see any of these guys try to dive on into the pits, but it'll probably be early to mid 20s, I would say. Probably 23 is probably the earliest lap we can expect these drivers to make a pit stop, but it's probably going to be closer to 25, 26 for some of these drivers on the hards.
I will say, surprisingly, despite all of the penalties, this has been a relatively cleaner race. That Las Vegas had a lot of contact, wheel banging, and a lot of like close quarter passes. So far, it seems that Mexico has been a lot cleaner of a race, despite most of the penalties being track limits, but not quite as much wheel banging as we've seen in Las Vegas and other tracks. But yeah, it's just really interesting. It's going to be really interesting, as you said, as we go further into the race and as we get into the lap 20 and beyond. That's when we're going to start to see what kind of strategies the drivers have in mind. And I would be curious to see if any of the drivers would swap to the mediums at like the very earliest to just try and get ahead. But like we said, as we go through, we'll see what the drivers will choose to do.
Yeah, because here's the thing too, right, is there's always a balance, right? And I mean, the tires, it's not a simple situation, just like, oh, you know, the mediums are faster. There's a crossover point where the mediums, they're faster to start, but they're going to die off quicker than the hards will. And there's a transition point to where the hards are going to be a quicker tire, and then the mediums will be the quicker tire. But you got to just kind of choose where do you want to lose that time? Because you're going to lose that time either way. Either you're going to lose it on track, or you're going to lose it in the pits. And there is a fine line between where you're going to lose more time in the pits versus staying out, and then vice versa. Because if you wait too long, you're going to lose more time on track than you would have lost in the pits. Just over time. As those tires get older, as the grip starts kind of falling away from these medium or hard compound tires. So you really just got to... You really got to think about it, and that's where I think practice really comes into play, because if you've done practice races around here, you'll know where those lines are. You'll know when these tires start to fall away. You'll have a better idea of, you know, what is the optimal pit window for my tires on this track. Because I know some cars do tend to differ in, like, if it's not equal performance, but with it being equal performance, I mean, it is a lot easier to kind of gauge what the tire wear is going to be like for pretty much whatever car you're driving, because it's all the same stats.
And as if we needed another factor to throw in everything, I think you talking about the transition point kind of maybe triggered it. We have rain falling on the track currently so far. I was curious because I saw Umbreon on us at inches, and I thought it was my eyes playing tricks on me a bit, but no, there is rain on circuit. You're 100% correct. Yeah.
So, yeah, like you said, that's going to throw another thing into the works.
Yeah, so now we were saying about, the crossover point, when do you want to switch to the mediums? Now it's going to be a question of how quickly do some of these drivers switch to the inters, because you can see that some of them switched almost immediately. That I was originally spectating H-Town right as I noticed the rain starting to fall, and he was in Sector 3, and he immediately peeled into the pits for the inters. And you can see Meraki Dawn now going through Sector 3, and I'm curious to see if they do the same thing and just immediately peel in for inters.
We'll see, because the rain isn't really super heavy yet, so you might be able to get another lap in on these tires, but seeing how tight he's hugging his corner, no, I think he was trying to, but he just couldn't get the grip down on that Ferrari, so... And here's the thing, too. I think TyTy's going to definitely come in, because TyTy is... Oh, no! There's a Racing Bull stuck in the pits! He was ghosted, but he was parked in the pits. Now he's going to go across the pit line. And that is a hefty penalty coming in for the Racing Bull of Stu. I mean, that could have been disaster if he was not ghosted. H-Town gets a penalty for track limits, and honestly, I think it's just a matter of just who doesn't get track limits at this point, because there's only 3 drivers right now, aside from the DNF and DSQ, of drivers who have yet to get penalties on this track. So...
yeah, this has been just utter chaos. You can even see, even with the Racing Bull there sitting in the pit lane, TyTy going around that last turn was slipping. And it looked like he was trying to stay there, but he just didn't have as much grip. So with the rain still somewhat coming down, I'm really curious to see is now the majority of the field has switched to the wet tires. So now our top 3 and Wildcat are the only ones who don't have intermediate tires on right now.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing too. I was actually pretty surprised that we didn't see TyTy come into the pits, because he's got wing damage. So he's got a good amount of damage on that front wing. He's going to definitely come into the pits now. Lyrian is... oh, but he got hit with another pen. Oh. And another pen on top of that. TyTy's race, it goes from better to worse, and now he's out of the session. So one of the championship protagonists, he's calling it now. He is done with his race. And that is going to promote Lyrian up to 2nd place. And Meraki Dawn, I think he's got this win pretty much just bagged at this point.
The only thing that would be of question is Meraki Dawn does still have the 6 seconds, and so far Joshua has actually been gaining ground on the intermediates. I mean, there is still a significant gap, but with that 6-second penalty, we're not sure. But I kind of agree that with TyTy retiring out of the race, Meraki Dawn is in the absolute best prime position to win this race.
Yeah, honestly, this would do wonders for his championship aspirations soon. I mean, he's already got a pretty solid buffer in the championship, but now that buffer's going to get even bigger, because there's only 8 points between himself and TyTy before this race after Las Vegas. And now with the DNF going to TyTy and Meraki Dawn winning this race, that is going to just about triple that point gap in between himself. The DRS is now disabled. The FIA deciding it's enough now, so even if you're within a second, you are not going to get DRS. So we will see how the rest of this plays out, because right now Meraki Dawn, he's got a good gap. He's still technically 6.5 seconds ahead, even with the penalty. So we'll see if Joshua Bear has enough in him to kind of claw back those seconds and get that position back. So we'll see as Lyrian does take P3 on track. But another driver who I think has had a pretty under the radar race in terms of just championships, it's got to be Umbreon, because he stayed pretty neutral, honestly, all things considered. And now he's really just kind of minimizing that points gap. And I think at this stage, I think he is actually going to jump TyTy for P2 in the Drivers' Championship right now.
Yeah, sorry, I originally made the noise because I saw that Illyrian went to pass Umbreon and they had a little bit of contact going into turn 1, but he was able to somehow hold on to that. And now Illyrian is right on the tail of Joshua. So now we have basically a 3-way battle now for 2nd place. And that's really going to help Meraki Dawn, because now if they're all battling, that's just going to let Meraki Dawn get a bigger and bigger gap.
Yeah, and that's definitely the most likely outcome. However, there is another outcome that these drivers could potentially see is, what has happened? I think somebody has been off the track.
Contact!
Joshua is off. It's Joshua. He's spun around right at the Forest out of the stadium section. He just lost the grip, and yeah, now he's tumbling down the order. So, and another spin. More contact. I think that was between himself and Barry. Himself and Barry had a bit of contact. Now the Williams of Lopro going to go to try to get past on the inside. Let's see who's got the better speed. It looks like it is going to be Joshua with a little bit of better speed now. But man, that was unfortunate for the Red Bull.
Yeah, and actually, it was not that he lost grip. Illyrian went to make a move on the inside going through that last turn of Sector 3 and just ever so slightly clipped his back right tire, and that spun Joshua around. So very, very unfortunate. There wasn't really any like malice or like purpose to, or doing it on purpose. It just looked that Illyrian wanted to go for the gap that was there, but with the rain conditions, he probably slid up a little bit more than he wanted to, and that resulted in the collision.
In previous races I've seen of Illyrian, he has kind of garnered a reputation of being a driver that lives and dies by the "if you no longer go for a gap that exists, then you're no longer a racing driver" quote. He will go for any gap that he sees, and Joshua Bear, the bear, has finally fallen, and now there is a 3-second time penalty to his name. So now it is Nishka and the Governor, the only two have yet to get any penalties. So yeah, this has been a very chaotic race here in Mexico. But yeah, Illyrian does have that kind of that reputation of being a very aggressive driver, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So we'll see what the stewards have to say about that incident.
Yeah, it would be very interesting to see what the stewards would make of that incident. But all in all, I guess it once again leads back into Meraki Dawn, because that incident really slowed down Illyrian. Because originally, if you disregard the penalty, they were still 12 seconds just about behind Meraki Dawn, and now they're closer to 16 seconds behind. So the incident really making its mark and just widening the gap ever more.
Yeah, honestly, that's a bit of a, I mean, that's definitely a unfortunate incident that happened there between the two, but we're gonna have to see how the rest of this plays out. Still about 12 laps to go once these drivers cross the line, and honestly, this is pretty much Meraki Dawn's race to lose, but still good ways to go. There could be a safety car that really bunches up the field, and then that's gonna make the whole penalty situation that much more interesting. Another thing to really note is look at the positional changes. There really hasn't been a lot of change. The biggest mover is Wildcat, who's up 3 positions. So nobody's really made a lot of progress here in this Mexican Grand Prix. The driver who has fallen down the most was NASCAR Freak, but that's a DNF situation, so that doesn't entirely count. But the only driver who has made more than 2 positions up on track is the Ferrari of Wildcat. So a bit of a good recovery drive from him, but even though we've had a lot of action in this race, a lot of these positions have pretty much just stayed the same. And
to be fair, probably the biggest mover would have been Tai, because originally, well, it says on there that he is down 2 positions because he started originally in P14, but with his retirement, when he was originally in 3rd place, he definitely would have been the biggest gainer. But other than that, I agree, just not as much movement as maybe we're kind of used to seeing with some of the other races that we've had this season, where we'll see some other drivers have a gain of 7 positions sometimes in a race. But yeah, in this time, the biggest being 3 for Wildcat.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as much movement as we thought we would have seen, but I mean, granted, yeah, Tai was definitely going to be the biggest mover. He definitely would have moved up so many positions. He definitely would have been a solid contender for driver of the day. But once again, I mean, in just the chaos of this Mexican Grand Prix, he had a 10-second penalty already, then got another one for speeding in the pits, and then ultimately, sometimes you just gotta know that sometimes it's just not worth stressing over. So he did retire. He'll be able to come back next week for the next round of the series, and then he might have a chance to kind of refresh and just kind of digest that race and like, well, okay, this didn't really work, but I mean, it's just been a rough weekend for the McLaren driver. I mean, he'll want to have a better run of it at Singapore, but Singapore is also a really tight street track.
Yeah, Singapore is very, very tight track, and I would be interested to see what kind of a bounce back he'll have for Singapore after this race, because definitely a disappointing weekend, but it is definitely something that he can recover from, that it is not something that he won't be able to recover from, but it will make it substantially harder, especially if Meraki Don continues and wins this race.
Yeah, so once again, it's going to be, I mean, this one is going to have, obviously, a massive championship implication. I mean, Rocky Don is coming off of a win in Las Vegas last week, or 2 weeks ago, and now he's looking for another win here in North America, so he's going to go ahead and try to just continue that momentum all the way till getting that North American Championship. I'll be curious to kind of hear his thoughts after the race, as we are closing in on the final 10 laps of this Grand Prix here in Mexico.
And as we wind that down, this race continues to run and wind down. Who is your current driver of the day? Who would you pick?
We'll see. Honestly, I think right now, just because of the pure consistency, I'm going to give it to Meraki Don. He's just been very consistent. I mean, he pretty much got in front and then just never really had to look back. And despite all the chaos, despite all the changing conditions, he's just been constantly, doing what he needs to do. He's building out a gap, and he's pretty much just making that penalty all moot. But alternatively, if I were to pick a different driver that didn't have any kind of penalties, I would give it to Nishka. He's made up positions here. He started in P12, made it up to the top 10, and he's got no penalties. So it's been a pretty solid race here for the Alpine. As Nasty Stu is just kind of parked on track, although ghosted.
Yeah, very interesting. I actually would be very curious to see if Nishka, as Nasty, will retire.
That's a retirement on track, too. That's a big penalty.
And now I think
that's a VSC.
Yeah, that is a VSC now. So kind of lucky it wasn't a safety car, because if that was a safety car, that would have made everything different. But as I said before, I'm going to be very interested to see if Nishka and Governor will be able to get out of this race without a penalty, because I think this might be the most. I'm not entirely sure about OCE, but this might be the most penalties that we've seen in North America so far in this season. That almost every single driver has a penalty on the grid right now.
Yeah, that is. I can't say if I've seen this before, because I'm trying to remember all the penalties. And a bit of a pit stop bug there for Meraki Don, having a little bit of a stutter step getting into the pits. That might cost him a little bit, but I think everybody. And it's green flag conditions right as these drivers are getting out of the pits. That might put Illyrian into the lead, and it will just barely. But here's the thing, though. Meraki Don is on brand new intermediates that will surely get to the end of this race. That is compared to 8-lap-old intermediates. Harold is on the full wets. So we'll see if that's the right call or not for the Red Bull. Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that out of the top drivers, we have really only seen Meraki take a pit stop here.
Yeah, none of the other drivers, all the other drivers are currently running the same intermediates. And now, granted, some of them did pit a little bit earlier. That you can see that Illyrian did pit a little bit later than other people because he has only 8-lap old tires, and Umbreon and Sin currently have 11-lap old tires. But now you can see H-Town will pull in for a new pair of intermediates as well. So, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to see Umbreon and these other drivers peel in. I'm a little bit more curious to see when Illyrian will pit in, just because of having the slightly fresher tires than some of these other drivers behind him.
The thing is, too, is that he's got to pull out a 6-second gap to get away from Meraki Dawn, because Meraki, actually, no, he's going to pull out he's got to pull out a 3-second gap ahead of Meraki if he wants to get this win. So, or Meraki's got to get another 3-second time penalty himself. So, I think it's just really going to be down to who's got the better pace, because Illyrian is going to be naturally at a disadvantage because the intermediate tires can be pretty fragile, and they can be pretty particular about what kind of temperatures they like to operate in. And I mean, those fresh intermediates are definitely going to be an advantage for Meraki, but if Meraki gets a penalty, then this race could go the way of Lyrian. But if he doesn't get a pen, then Merakidan's got this pretty much in the bag. So Lyrian's got to keep it clean and try to build on a gap, and Meraki just has to keep it clean, period.
Yeah, it comes back down to consistency. That the consistency is king, and it's really going to matter here as, I mean, Meraki Dawn is already making up the time that he originally lost. So he is right on Illyrian's tail, but you just can't be too overzealous to try and pass because you cannot risk getting another penalty.
Yeah, so I mean, it's tricky too, because I mean, even if Illyrian doesn't win this race, he'll still have his best finish of the season here in North America by far. His best finish previously was a P9. So he'll definitely take, I mean, he's definitely still well within podium contention, because pretty much everybody behind him is either at an equal level of penalty or so far back that it wouldn't really change much in the grand scheme of things. With 7 laps to go, I don't think Merakidan really needs to do anything dangerous here. He just needs to keep that car facing in the right direction and just within the white lines. And actually, while this is going on, I'm going to make a quick check just to kind of see how things are. Oh, here's the problem, though. Merakidan's got to be careful because he is on... I think he's, well, let's see. Just making the kind of things. I think he's, yeah, so Merakidan, I think he's one more track limit away from getting another pen. So, yeah, he is on another, if he gets one more track limit warning, then he gets penalized again, which would pretty much put him and Lyrian pretty much neck and neck here.
Yeah, and if he gets that one penalty, it basically just becomes almost a regular race again, where it would just be them side by side, racing just down to the wire. So we're gonna get another retirement. Oh, but it's a retirement in the pits. Harold in the Red Bull will retire in the pits. So maybe another little bit of a moment there. Maybe thinking that there was gonna be a safety car, but instead no safety car, and the race will continue.
Yeah, so the nice, because you can retire in the pits. But it got there between Meraki and Lyrian. A little bit of a love out there as they try to get past the lapped Ferrari of Wildcat. Nishka now gets a penalty. So that leaves the Governor as the only driver to not get a penalty here in this race. So we'll see how the rest of this one plays out. I think maybe the Wildcat was trying to do something to help his teammate there. I don't know, he's kind of ghosted, so there wasn't too much he can do, but Merakidan trying to fight it on the outside. No real say here. Now you got to get into the really dirty air on a surface with not a lot of grip. So this is going to be like a winding toge battle here. Instead of racing through the mountains, they're racing through the S's here in Mexico City. And now we're going to see, is he going to make the dive going into Foro del Sol here? Not quite, not enough open area to make us move here, but they are so close that they're almost bump drafting as they make their way through the stadium with 5 laps to go. Once they cross the line, a bit of a snap there for Meraki Dawn, but he's going to have such a good slipstream. He might just get this move done here on lap 32.
Yeah, they are doing everything possible to stay right where they are. I mean, Meraki Dawn is giving everything to try and get past Illyrian, and Illyrian is doing a very good job of defending, just being there, because you can't drive just straight through the car. You have to go around. So far, Illyrian has been defending very well, but you can tell Meraki Dawn is doing everything possible to try and get past, but it just so far, despite a little bit of contact, Meraki Dawn just hasn't had that kind of little gap to be able to just get past Illyrian and into the lead.
Yeah, honestly, and I mean, Illyrian is defending really hard, but at the end of the day, if Meraki doesn't get another penalty, then that all the defense is just going to be for nothing, really, because you're going to get closer and closer to Umbreon, which, granted, unless Illyrian gets another penalty, then I think Umbreon is still going to remain in third. But, I mean, he just needs Meraki Dawn to get another penalty here to really make things worthwhile, because they're fighting it out. I mean, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. These drivers are just giving it their all. And even look at this, you have Meraki Dawn potentially even burning up those intermediates a bit too much, and both these drivers are now on the wet line. For those of you who don't know, you can actually use that wet line to cool off these intermediate tires down any of these straights, and that's exactly what these two did. Is Meraki Dawn going to try to get at the inside? Oh no, he's going to try the outside. He's going for the outside approach. Another love tap against Illyrian. And they're going to fight it out once again. Going through turns 3 and 4. And you can just hear the tires screeching on that Ferrari. They're in the DRS zone now. No DRS, but is there going to be a move made? Not quite. Not quite a move made, but once again, these two are still battling tooth and nail.
And it almost feels like the way Illyrian is defending, I think that he's almost trying to bait Meraki Dawn into getting another penalty, or he's saying, hey, I'm going to defend really, really hard, and I'm going to try and force Meraki Dawn to maybe go off the track a little bit, because like you said, he is on thin ice. If he gets another off-track warning, he is for sure getting a penalty. So it might be the reason why maybe Meraki Dawn isn't as aggressive going into some of these turns, because maybe with the defending, the way that Illyrian is defending, he's trying to basically say, hey, I'm going to make you work to get first place, and if maybe you try too hard, you get a penalty, and I'm still in first place and defending.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, he's going to give it the old college try, as we are now with 3 laps to go. Illyrian has got to be feeling that tire wear effect, because he went on the dry line, or he went on the wet line. Meraki stayed on the wet line, as these two continue to battle it out, fighting tooth and nail for every kind of position humanly possible here. And there is no quarter given between these two. Illyrian and Meraki Dawn going ahead and fighting out once again. There's barely a tenth of a lap separating these two. He's going to try to go around the outside. He just wants to get this pass done and dusted, but once again, no real estate available for Meraki Dawn to get this move done and dusted. We'll see if he can do it again this lap, but even then, he doesn't need to do anything crazy, because remember, Illyrian has 3 seconds more pens. So, I mean, this is really Meraki Dawn's race to lose.
Yeah, the race really is in Meraki Dawn's hands because of, just like what you said with the penalties. But you can give credit to Illyrian just because of how well he's defending, and he's doing everything right. He is just being in the lead, being on track, and trying to force a mistake out of Meraki Dawn, in which, considering if it was a dry track, it probably wouldn't be as viable as a strategy, but just because of the current conditions, it seems to be working out a little bit more, trying to force a mistake out of the Ferrari and just evening the playing field, because with these last 2 laps, really anything goes wrong and all of a sudden this race has a completely different tone.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, and he almost had contact in gear again on the penultimate lap of the Mexican Grand Prix here. The rain is coming down, but the aggression level is not coming down. It is only going up. These guys are fighting through the diamond. More love taps here again. And I mean, there's like legitimately no quarter given. You couldn't even fit a quarter in between these 2 cars with how hard these guys are just pushing it.
And I think that Illyrian maybe almost pushed his luck a little bit too far as he tried to go slow. Is now, H-Town is out. H-Town retires, and
no.
he's in sector 1.
Oh, his race was going so well too, but I mean, it was tricky conditions. So I mean, yeah, it's a tough day in the office, but they're going through Foro del Sol now, and it is time for the final lap of this Mexican Grand Prix. They're going around the final corner to go ahead to begin the final lap of this Mexican Grand Prix. It is all coming down to the wire now. Both drivers using the fully wet line to make everything happen, to try to cool those tires off, to give them the best possible way. And here we go. Now we're going to go ahead and see if there's going to be any moves made into turn 1. Illyrian still defending. Illyrian is going to try to force Meraki into making a mistake and getting a penalty. We'll see. Meraki Don. He is the championship leader for a reason, but he wants to be the race leader as well. Thinking about shaking for a move coming into the diamond. Not going to happen just yet. We will see if the Salva is going to more contact. It feels like Illyrian is braking a bit earlier than he needs to, but he's ultimately trying to force Meraki into making a mistake, into damaging a wing. He's trying to force him into some kind of mistake, but that is not quite happening. Gets very tight on the S's. Dirty air plus a slick surface does not bode well for trying to keep it within the white lines to not get a penalty. We'll see. Now they're going to go ahead and make their way down, coming into stadium section. Meraki just doesn't have the real estate to make the move happen. This is really the last spot he can get a penalty, though. Illyrian's going to try to pull away, but at this stage in the race, it is all for nothing. The never turn for wrong sliding him in. Oh, he somehow keeps it in. I don't know how he kept it in, but through everything thrown at him, he is drifting around the final corner. Meraki wins the Mexican Grand Prix in North America. What a drive. What a drive from Meraki. He's going to be happy about that one.
I think that sector 3 was a lot more dramatic. I don't know how in the world he kept that Ferrari in track limits, but he did, and absolutely saved it, because a penalty there and it would have been Illyrian's race for sure. But again, what a drive and what a save at the end by Meraki.
Yeah, honestly, I thought right down to there, I thought that was the penalty. I thought the penalty was coming right down to there, because he did go over track limits, but I think he might have just been safe enough. Or maybe because sometimes if you don't gain an advantage, the game will go ahead and give it to you. As John does run straight into the back of a slow-moving Red Bull, but he was running in last place to begin with by quite a time. But yeah, I honestly thought that Meraki got that penalty right there at the end, but whew, that was tough.
And I guess as we were also talking about it, the Governor does finish the race without any penalties. So at least with all the penalties going on, we had one driver that did finish the race with no penalties.
I think that right itself is driver of the day material, honestly. Even though he's not a top 10, but he is the only driver without a penalty. So I think that in itself is driver of the day material. And he is breakdancing because he broke all of our minds with how good this race was for him. And Meraki will take victory here in Mexico City. Changing conditions, it didn't matter. He did what he needed to do. He tucked in. He stayed behind Illyrian and just did not get a penalty, and he held on there. So that is going to be a very well-driven race here And yeah, let's just go ahead and get right to the results here, as the cleanest driver today is actually the governor. So the governor does get the clean driver award for today. And yeah, that was actually a really good race. We're going to run through the results here really quickly. Marakidan does take P1, followed by Illyrian, Detect Umbreon, Low Pro, Hatred Sin, and then we have Joshua Bear, Barry, Nishka Reigns, Wildcat the Governor, John DT, H-Town, Harold, Nasty Stew, Tai Tai, NASCAR Freak, and Mechanic Mercedes, with the last few drivers DNFing here out of this race. So now, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and talk to our podium finishers here. And we're going to go ahead and just do our interviews real quick. So we're going to go and start with the P3 man of Detect Umbreon. How are you doing today, mate?
Doing all right.
How do you think this race went for you? You did gain a good amount of points, and I think you did jump Tai Tai for P2 in the driver's standings for now, but what's next for you coming into Singapore?
Hopefully just having another good result. That's really it. With this race, just was kind of stuck in no man's land after it started raining, but I'm fine with that. It's just, I'm so bad at this track. I'm just happy to get on the podium.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, Mexico is not an easy track by any standards. I mean, you're at a higher elevation, you know, less air pressure, less grip. But I mean, even through all that and the changing conditions, which doesn't make anything any easier, you still pulled off a podium. So, so overall, do you think your race pace would have been better if the rain didn't happen, or do you think you've got the best result you could today?
Probably got the best result I could. I don't think I could have done much more.
All right, last question before we go ahead and let you go. Is there anyone you want to thank or shout out after today's race?
No, just kind of a boring race, to be honest. So that's it.
All right. Well, once again, congratulations on the P3, and we'll see you next week in Singapore.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we're going to talk to the P2 man. He won on track, but unfortunately just couldn't quite build the gap to negate that penalty he had. It is Illyrian. How are you doing today, mate?
Yeah, you're all right.
So overall, how did you find your race today? You had a pole position that actually shocked us. It was a really good pole position lap. Just talk to us about your race here today.
I just want to say one of my penalties is getting removed. So I'll be down to 6. And obviously, Mareki did something a bit cheeky. I don't think you lot caught it on stream, but he's getting a penalty as well for doing something under VSC. So today, I'm just grateful for even actually being able to race. It was actually a fun race. Obviously, the one thing I was a bit annoyed with was starting on the mediums compared to everyone else starting on the hards, which actually cost me from the get-go. But as soon as I got the hards on, I had a great battle with most drivers. Obviously, I had an incident with Joshua, but in fairness, it was a racing incident in my opinion. And on top of that, he should have given man the position back on an earlier turn where I passed him, but he decided to keep the position on track. So yeah, can't mind my opinion, but I'll take the victory in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll have to see what the stewards decide on everything. So we'll just see how it plays out. But how are you feeling going into Singapore next week? Because it's a tight street track, and weather is still very much a potential factor. So what are your thoughts going into Singapore?
I'm not going to expect much straight off the bat because I know TY had a dreadful race, but realistically it'll be between him, Meraki, and hopefully myself for Singapore. I love Singapore. It is a fun track, but I keep hitting the walls, which is something I need to learn. Touching the walls 24/7, breaking my front wing, so I need to try adapt to not hitting breaking any wings for Singapore.
Yeah, unlike Mexico, Singapore does have a lot of walls that are close to the track and not a lot of runoff. So, is there anyone that you would like to thank or shout out before we let you go here, Illyrian?
To everyone, man. Honestly, great race. Thanks again to SJ. Personally, I think he should be disqualified because he didn't make the briefing room within the 5 minutes regulation. But other than that, No, man, I enjoyed it. I appreciate all of you for tonight and appreciate you guys as well for doing the cons.
All right, congratulations on the positive results. We'll see if it sticks in P2 or eventually gets promoted to P1. But yeah, once again, congratulations, and we'll see you next week in Singapore.
Okay.
All right, last but most certainly not least, the provisional race winner, Meraki Dawn. How are you doing today, mate?
Doing good, a little. Just got a little feisty for a second, but I'm good.
I mean, just on track. I mean, granted, there's post-race stuff that's going to be under review, so we'll see how that all settles out. But on track, you were really close to getting that final penalty that Illyrian would have wanted you to get to so he could beat you on track. How'd you keep it within the white lines? Because you had dirty air and you had a slick surface, which was, I could tell, was definitely not easy to contend with.
It's just how that corner ends. So it's like it comes out of a corner and then it's straight, and then I kind of just went off. But that part wasn't on purpose. Like it was hard being behind him because he was like intentionally slowing mid corner. I don't know if you guys caught it because I was touching the back of him, would be mid corner, and like he just wouldn't go. And then so I was just kind of like, okay, if he does that again, I could just go straight down. But I kind of locked the Riz a little bit. I was running far back on the brake bias, and then I was already down like 3 seconds on Delta, so I was like, oh, it's whatever. And then so I just lit the rears coming out through the whole final section because it's gonna be my win no matter what, because I have to go get penalties removed too.
Indeed. So we'll see how the penalties and stuff sorts themselves out. I mean, just in general, with everybody but one driver getting some kind of penalty during this race, I know the stewards are definitely gonna have their work cut out for them here tonight. But 2 more questions before we go let you go. You definitely gained points in the championship here today, even if you don't secure the win here. But do you think you're able to carry this momentum into Singapore? Because you've won the last 2 races on track. So do you think you'll be able to carry this momentum to Singapore and try to get a championship here in North America?
I'm not going to say yeah, but I'm not going to say no, because it's just me and Tai Tai. Like, yeah, Embryo's there too, but he's good. He's a good driver. I'm not saying he's horrible. But it's like, he's not there every weekend like how me and Tai Tai are, so it's mainly against me and him. But I'm not going to win next race. Singapore isn't good on controller, and it never will be. So it's probably going to be P2, P3.
Yeah, honestly, as a controller player myself, I completely understand. Last question before we go in and let you go. Is there anyone you'd like to thank or shout out?
Personally, who I want to shout out is my boy GameHawk. Like, that's my GOAT right there. And you too, because you're always here, you're always commentating. I know you're always busy, you're commentating almost every day. So, yeah, you too.
All right, well, once again, congratulations on the result, and we'll see you next week in Singapore.
All right.
All right, that's going to go ahead and wrap things up here for Mexico here in North American EU Division, round number 6. We're officially halfway through this incredible championship. And GameHawk, do you have any final thoughts or comments?
Absolutely, kind of fantastic race, and also my heart is touched by Meraki Dawn's words. I appreciate the shout out. But yeah, absolutely crazy race with everything that happened, and now that we're halfway through the season, I'm very interested to see what drivers are going to rise to the top and secure the championship.
Yeah, so with Meraki Dawn, even if he gets second place, depending on what the stewards do in the stewards room, but regardless, he did extend his championship lead over his 2 main rivals of Umbreon and Tai Tai, who unfortunately didn't finish the race. So Meraki Dawn does have a lot of good momentum coming into Singapore, but he is not exactly feeling confident about Singapore. So what's going to happen? Is Tai Tai going to go ahead and take a win? Is he going to close up that championship? Are we going to see this championship ebb and flow, and we're going to see it battle out all the way to the end? But before we get there, and before we see if this championship will go all the way to the end in Abu Dhabi, we have to go through the next couple of races. But for now, we're going to go ahead and sign things off here. On behalf of GameHawk, my name is Patrick Coleman, aka Rekus, and we have been your hosts and commentators throughout the Grand Prix here. A massive shout out to our sponsors. We have Pagny and SimLab, and then we have Sim Racing Center, and then of course AI369. You guys are all fantastic, and a massive thank you to everybody watching in the Twitch chat. You guys are fantastic as always. And tune in next week when we head to the streets of Singapore. Have a good night.